When Mason Turner got home from work that Tuesday, all he wanted was to grab a cold drink, feed his cat Copper, and relax. But when he tried his front door, something was wrong. His smart lock didn't respond. The keypad was dead. The backup keycard? Nothing. He leaned in closer and felt his stomach drop. His high-tech lock system had been ripped out, replaced with a cheap metal deadbolt kind you'd find on a budget storage unit. Taped to the door was a letter with the Oak Ridge HOA logo, stating that his access had been revoked due to multiple violations. Violations he'd never been notified about. Mason just stood there, stunned, while a few of his nosy neighbors peeked out from behind their blinds. It wasn't just a lock. Someone had entered his home and replaced his security system while he was away. And he already had a good idea who was behind it. Earlier that morning, Mason had left for his job in cybersecurity, where he worked designing digital security frameworks for sensitive government facilities. If there was one thing Mason understood, it was how to keep people out and how to get in when needed, which is why it was almost laughable that someone thought they could lock him out of his own home. The likely culprit? Evelyn Maddox, the iron-fisted HOA president who had been gunning for Mason ever since he moved in. She hated his battery cabinet on the side yard, hated the blinking lights on his tech rig, hated his refusal to conform to her suburban aesthetic. In recent months, Evelyn had grown bolder, backed by a few board members who shared her desire to restore order. But Mason wasn't the type to yell or call the cops right away. He was a systems guy. He walked calmly back to his truck, drove to a nearby cafe, and opened his laptop. His smart home had off-site backups, including surveillance footage. Within minutes, he was staring at a clear video of Evelyn standing on his porch, supervising a contractor as they ripped out his security system. Her voice came through crystal clear. "Make it look official enough so he can't sue." Mason chuckled. They really had no idea who they were messing with. He called up a friend in digital forensics and another in real estate law. Within hours, he had a plan, not just for revenge, but for something better: exposure. That night, he stayed at a friend's place and reviewed every piece of footage, metadata, and HOA bylaw he had saved. Evelyn was spreading lies, claiming Mason had violated visual harmony rules and housed unauthorized tech. She even faked a vote giving the HOA emergency powers to restrict access. The next morning, Mason returned to his street like nothing happened. He placed a small device behind his front Plantera-disguised antenna that tracked signal interference and logged every attempt to breach the new dummy system he'd installed. Evelyn may have thought she gutted his setup, but the real infrastructure was buried deep, cloaked, and now fully operational. By the afternoon, Mason walked into the HOA clubhouse with a binder. Inside were copies of his deed, county codes, and architectural approval forms for every piece of equipment on his property. Evelyn barely looked up before trying to play it cool. "Oh, Mason, we meant to reach out to you." He simply replied, "You broke into my home and tampered with private property. That's not an HOA matter, that's criminal trespassing." Then he hit play on the video. Evelyn turned pale. One of the board members mumbled, "When was this recorded?" The other looked like he wanted to vanish. Mason leaned in and said, "This is just the trailer. The full feature's coming soon." But Mason wasn't done. He planted a honeypot, a fake Wi-Fi network labeled HOA Security Access, complete with dummy files. Within 24 hours, someone connected using an old tablet and tried uploading a script called access_override JS. Mason logged every keystroke, including the MAC address which traced back to the HOA clubhouse. It got worse. He received an anonymous email with a screenshot of a group chat where Evelyn bragged about getting rid of the tech eyesore and called Mason a cyber threat to neighborhood unity. That was it. He compiled everything into a digital folder and uploaded it to a private drive. Then he printed a single flyer and posted it to the community board. Do you know what your HOA is really doing? With a link. 3 downloads in 15 minutes. Then came the texts. I didn't vote for this. She lied to us. We want answers. Soon, Mason walked past Evelyn's house. No clipboard. No smirk. Just a tight nod. She knew. He brought his lawyer and a housing department rep to the next HOA meeting. Evelyn was served with a formal complaint and immediately suspended pending investigation. Board members began resigning. Residents called for a full audit. Evelyn went radio silent. But Mason wasn't satisfied until he filed a civil suit not for money, but for legal discovery. That meant Evelyn's fake domains, her group chats, her son's tampering, all of it became part of the public record. A week later, the new HOA board was sworn in. Mason declined to run, nominating a retired librarian instead, someone fair, someone who listened. That weekend, the community held a potluck. Porch swings were reinstalled. Bird feeders returned. Kids laughed on front lawns again. And Mason? He sipped his coffee with copper on his lap, watching his security feed. The doors were open again. On his terms. Let me know in the comments, have you ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA? What would you have done in Mason's shoes? Let's talk about it below. HOA stories, cyber revenge, neighborhood drama.